Hello, viewers. Welcome to PES Blog. And today we are doing an interview with ATHARVA. He's a member of PES Open Source. Thank you, ATHARVA, for coming.
Hello, I am ATHARVA RAYKAR. I am the current lead for PES Open Source, and it's nice to be interviewed.
So what is PES open source and what do you guys do majorly in PES open source?
So to talk about PES Open Source, I'd have to first mention open source. Obviously, are you familiar with open source?
Yes, you could explain
Yeah.
it more because we're not that.
Yeah, so like open source is like the idea where you share your code base and collaborate with others. So it's like if you make an idea or if you make some program, anyone else can contribute to it and work on it and make it better. And so that way you're learning a lot about the code base itself and you're helping improve a tool that everyone's using.
Yeah.
So what PES open source is about is a community built around open source, which is like the core essence is open collaboration.
Right.
And the foundation for it would be freely sharing ideas with each other. So often you would have like groups of people who might be event oriented or whatever, where like you might do an event, some workshops and all of that. All that is all that is great. But the model we are trying to have is that we are open to anyone coming in, pitching us ideas or telling us something that they have learned or that they're working on, and other people can also come and make it bigger than like the sum of its parts, right?
You just make like open source projects and you leave it open for like everyone to use.
That is
Or
basically, yeah, that's currently the best thing we do right now. So we have like a bunch of open source projects, and there are contributors not only from within college but like people from all over the world. They see something and they're like, oh, this is cool, and they have also contributed to those projects as well. I'm not sure about how many people actually use the things that we built, but if we are getting these many contributions, there must be some people who actually are benefiting from it. So that's the whole idea. It's really great.
I think that perfectly segues into our next question. So, how many members are present in PES Open Source?
Right. So I mean, if you're talking about just the administrative side of things, there might be like 10, 15 people who are like just managing the infrastructure and like making sure we are doing things. But if you're talking about members, people participating in everything we are doing, our Slack channel currently has around uh, 150, I guess. I've lost count, but it's definitely over 100. I would say around 150 to be conservative. So yeah, in that we have quite a few people participating there. It's very active. So if you want to know where all the buzz is at PES Open Source, it's a Slack channel.
Right.
Okay. And so yeah, what makes PES open source unique from other technical clubs?
Yeah. So well, one thing is the idea of like the open collaboration and like working on projects together. Even like the culture that is there in our club is like someone might just come in and say, hey, so I thought of making this thing, so let's take an example of RShark, which is an actual open source project. We had a senior who just came and said, I'm making this tool that analyzes network packets. I'm building it in Rust. And we are like, awesome, would you want to make it like a project that like we'll maintain? So the difference between like a project that you would do elsewhere and like a project in PES open source is, with a PES open source project, you're making something long term. It's not just to demonstrate an idea. You're actually learning how to be an open source maintainer, handling other people's contributions, getting contributions, all of that. So I would say that's something that we are doing differently, and something we have not actually seen a lot of other colleges do.
Right, right. How do you apply to PES Open Source? Are there any requirements to join, or is there a screening process, something like that?
So to join PES Open Source, I'm just going to be sending you a link, promote it in the description. But the main idea of how it works is, if you want to join PES Open Source, all you have to do is, we have a repository called the members list. So what you have to do is you have to make an open source contribution to that repository saying, add my name to the list.
Okay.
And when you do that, one of our bots will come to you and give you a link to a Slack channel. And that's all it takes to be able to participate in our activities. You would be in the Slack channel, and we do selections for like the administrative side, the core and the leadership. But if you want to do all the best parts, you don't really need to exactly be a core member. You, if you want to like work on projects, or if you want to be a maintainer, or if you just want to like coordinate things or even conduct a workshop for us, all you need to do is
Yeah.
approach us on Slack, on the general channel or whatever, and just say, I want to do this. We will support you for that. So it's, again, the whole point
So that's
is
damn
you
cool.
openly collaborate. There are no barriers, right?
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's like really different from other colleges or like that we've heard, the other clubs
See,
also.
actually, like this kind of a culture was actually originating in universities. When you trace back the origins of like open source and all, it comes from the hacker culture, which is like starting like MIT and a bunch of other universities, where people just make things, share
Yeah.
things, and like, when you have different minds who think differently, coming from different domains, like a lot of innovation happens. So what I've noticed is
Yeah.
this kind of a culture is not prevalent in colleges anymore. That's the space we are trying to fill.
Right.
Like if you see developer meetup groups and stuff, it's always coming from professional developers, but not so much from colleges.
Right. Yeah.
So, Atharva, what is the like usual time that your club works at, or like does it stop during exam time, or like any like what times do your most active periods
Yeah,
basically?
there are no hard stops for like time limits and stuff. So there's one thing we do is the weekly meetup. We don't do that like 1 week before the ISAs or any exams, but
Right.
otherwise we do it almost every week.
Okay.
But other than that, most of our work is actually done remotely. We are coordinating everything from our Slack channel.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are no fixed hours or anything.
Okay.
And there is no particular active time of the period, because we'll just maintaining an open source thing is something you do bit by bit throughout the year.
Right.
So
Okay.
there's no peak time, but I guess the closest you would get is like October, where we have an event called Hacktoberfest.
Right.
So we like conduct a local
Okay.
Hacktoberfest meetup around October. But again, like it's not like a climax or anything that we have in the year. It's
Yeah.
just one of the things we do, and there you might see us being advertised more. But to be fair, we are just quite active throughout.
So after college hours, like, do you have meetups like regularly, or like, or everything's just online?
At the moment, everything's online, but before things went completely online,
Yeah.
we were doing it after hours in college, like once.
Does your club like provide an official certificate or some recognized certification after some project or something like that?
So the thing is, we felt like obviously a certificate coming from like a college club is not really that valuable. But if you show that you have worked on an open source project that's maintained professionally with like proper deployment pipelines and stuff,
Right.
that's really attractive. It'll take you much further than any certificate that we give you.
Right.
So
Okay.
contributing to open source is something employers really appreciate. Once you get past like the whole coding puzzles round and stuff, and when you're actually going to talk about your work, you get to talk about what you have done. Like, I've contributed to open source, I've done so and so in an open source setting. So
Okay.
all of that is quite attractive.
Right.
What activities do you have in your club, and like, what's the most interesting activity according to you?
uh, well, my personal opinion is, I think the most fun thing we do are the projects. We keep on
Okay.
getting this also from all our collaborators and maintainers and people starting projects. They're like, uh, I don't like, they feel like, oh, college is so boring, I just want to work on this stuff.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Because it's really fun, right? Because you're not
Yeah.
only like learning a lot, you're learning a lot of new things, you're learning from other people, and you get to collaborate on projects. It's something that can't be quite described unless you're a part of it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Does your club take part in any competitions like as a group, together?
Yeah, so we have not participated in competitions or hackathon as a club as such, because That's not something we usually focus on. But if you're talking about like external things that our members participate in, we have people who are part of GSOC, Google Summer of Code.
Right,
So
right.
again, that's not really a competition. It's more like a program that Google does that makes people contribute to open source repositories,
Yeah.
and like they pay a stipend for it or whatnot.
Right.
So those kind of things you would see our members participating in, but we don't like go as like a troop to like various hackathons or anything, because that's
Okay.
not what we are trying to achieve.
What exposure does your club provide, like for that helps you bag jobs or like internships?
Right. So again, as I said, contributing to open source seen as an excellent thing. And it's not like you just
Okay.
contribute to like open source in our repositories. We would help you out. Like we
Okay.
conduct workshops and information sessions on these. We'll help you understand how to contribute to any open source project. So, for
Okay.
example, we have some members who have contributed to, say, Gatsby. One of our GSOC members contributed to the D language,
Oh, wow.
and like there's a lot of projects that
Okay.
I'm not remembering right now. But
Yeah.
so once, if you can contribute to open source, you have already demonstrated a lot of ability, and that's quite helpful when you're
Yeah.
looking at like job prospects or whatnot.
Right.
More than
Okay.
anything though, it's a lot of fun. It's more fulfilling than actually even working at an internship, because you're contributing to something people use and other people can be a part of, right? It's the feeling of community.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to suggest to us freshers to do in this pandemic time? Like any courses, something to do with you or your club?
um, well, with our club, just like participate, get a feel for how it is within our club. We are very welcoming and very inclusive. That's one of our goals. So feel free
Okay.
to like ask us any questions about anything you want to learn or you want to understand. One of our main things, and it's something that we like have a code of conduct. One of our main things is there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Right.
So just to be a
Okay.
part of our conversations, engage with us. The more you engage with us over time, the more you can achieve while you're a part of our community.
Right.
So I would say that.
Okay.
On a more general note, coming more personally from me, I guess you people should just chill now. I feel like your batch has had it
Okay.
worse with the entrance exams.
Oh man, it's bad.
Yes.
So
It's
yeah,
bad.
don't focus on like jumping on from like one rat race to the next.
Yeah.
Just try to have
Okay.
fun with and try to learn things, like because you're actually interested in learning them.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
Right.
But like, would you suggest like some basic requirements that you'll need, like
Yes,
some
yes.
basic language understanding, or is our 12th basics enough?
If you want to learn something for college, I would say the one thing that I feel like is severely underrated is
Okay.
actual core skills. You can
Okay.
easily pick up like a language and framework if you put your mind to it. That's no problem.
Right.
But
Okay.
core skills is something that I feel is not emphasized enough.
Right.
And by core skills, I mean, how do you collaborate as a team? How do you communicate well?
Okay.
Like, communication's not just about being able to speak good English, right? Like,
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever. It's so I feel like those kind of skills will get you further if you like like I don't know how you practice those, but like if you figure those out, uh,
Okay.
you wouldn't have to worry too much about like technologies, because those will keep on coming and going.
Right.
Okay.
So core skills is something that'll stay with you. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would emphasize on that over anything else.
Right.
Okay.
So, do you have any examples of any cool projects you have done in your club?
Right. Okay. Maybe I would again send you a link to our websites where we do have projects, but off the top of my head, there is Grover. So that's built using the Go language, which
Right.
is a profiler. So think something like the command top. The thing is, people learning
Okay.
this learned a lot about how CPU systems and stuff work,
Right.
and like we have presented in like a nice graphical way. Then there's maybe Arshak, which is a network packet analyzer, again very similar to Wireshark. So that's also pretty interesting, because like that takes
Mm.
you to the system side of things, and you understand how network packets work and things like that.
Right.
So that was a fun one. Um, our newest project is something called Heiko, which is like a load balancer for like Raspberry Pi servers.
Oh, wow.
So that's also pretty interesting. I've not actually looked into it much because it's very new, but the uh, repository is out there now. Issues are open. Feel free to contribute. If I had to name more, there's browser history, probably arguably our most popular project. It doesn't have a very attractive name, but it's this Python library that lets you like read your browser's histories, bookmarks, and stuff that you can use for automation.
Oh, wow.
Surprisingly, there's no other library like this in Python till now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was pretty surprising. Like there are a few, but like they're not actively maintained. So I guess we fill that little niche over there.
Yeah.
I think that one also got featured on PyCon this year. Like they did like a virtual thing, and they had like a project showcase.
Amazing.
Congratulations.
So yeah, shout out to the maintainers, Samyak, and another person called Sujan, who had like a lot of contributions there. So in general, I guess that's a few projects. We have a few projects that are not officially like under PESOS. So like they are more like by individuals saying, hey, I'm building this thing. I cannot give you guarantees about how long and how well I'll maintain it, but I'm taking like contributions. I'll be willing to teach you a thing or two. So you'll see a lot of people's personal projects as a part of that.
Right.
Okay.
So like I think one person had like he was like playing around with like video games, so he made like a Wolfenstein clone. Personally, like if I had to talk, I have one project too, which is built on a language so obscure that I couldn't make it a PES open source project because no one will contribute to it. So it's built in like this language called Racket, which is a Lisp, and it's like a quick file sharing kind of thing, like Google Docs or whatever, but you don't need to make an account, and like you can just like it has like some templates like where you can view the markdown files or whatever directly on the browser without having to download it and stuff. So it's quite niche.
Yeah.
So we are welcoming to those kind of projects as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess that's a summary of the kind of projects that we do. And again, like another dimension to it is like people coming from like less privileged backgrounds, like people who aren't like all male, rich and privileged like us or me. Like how do we get them to engage also, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we care about a lot as well.
Okay. That makes it really cool, like because you're catering to almost everyone's requirements, like making them feel at home, like comfortable feels. Yeah, that just makes it so much better.
So, bro, like, how do we like? Is there a way I can directly people can directly contact you as such, like core members like you?
Probably the Slack channel is the easiest way. If you want to contact in a way like where you don't want to like send like a contribution to a Slack channel and all, we have an email ID. We have a contact form on our website.
Right.
So like the contact form redirects to our email ID.
Okay.
So pesos.github.io, like there's like a big contact us button.
Right.
So for anything related to like, for any query really, you could just like shoot us a mail from there.
I think you have like assignments and labs and all that stuff coming up. Are you like thank you for making time for us, like with that, like we heard from Monday exams and you have to submit assignments and all now.
Yeah, I know. But it's totally worth it because like I feel like this might bring a lot of exposure to freshers. And we do want like a lot of new people also coming in.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely helpful. It's great that you people are doing this.
Thank you, ATHARVA, for spending time with us. Your club is incredible. It has this super cool, really nerdy stuff, if I say. It's cool. And really, I'm sure many people will join your club, and I'm sure people will love it as well. So thank you for coming, and all the links are in the description, so you can check that out.
Yeah.
There's also a link down below for our PES Freshers Instagram page and Discord, and there's also one for our Instagram page on this channel, PES Club. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video,
Like, share, and click here to subscribe.